Hola, amigo o amiga. Welcome back to the Spanish Conversation Podcast. I'm Alyssa Benelli, and I am thrilled to have you aquí. You are, in my unbiased opinion, in one of the best places in the podcast mundo for actually speaking. Not listening to an interview, a grammar lesson, or a story, actually speaking. I know, wild, right? Similar to the first tres episodios, hoy tengo 8 preguntas that you can use for help when you are just not getting it. Maybe it's too loud, someone is speaking through a mask, on the teléfono, etc. It happens to the best of us, no matter your level. So it's really importante to have one or a couple of these preguntas in your toolkit during conversaciones. It's up to you to decide which ones. As you're hearing the questions, don't be afraid to repeat the question out loud, noting your pronunciation and flow. And when answering during the silencio, don't be afraid to pause or try again. Before we begin, here are a couple of palabras or frases that might help you to formulate both questions and responses. Entender is to understand. Repetir is to repeat. Lo is it. Aclarar is to clarify. El menú is menu. La manera is manner or way. Traducir is to translate. And la ayuda is the help. Okay, shall we hear the questions? Imagine you're confused in a conversation and need to ask for help in traducir or entender what is being said. Here are some ways to achieve that. Número 1. ¿Me puedes explicar de otra manera? Can you explain to me in another way? You are asking if the person can do something using poder. Here we treat them as tú. You could also say otra vez for again instead of de otra manera if you would rather just hear the same thing once more. Número 2. ¿Estoy entendiendo bien lo que dijiste? Am I understanding well what you said? Here is a request to see if you understood. In the past, the dijiste, but entendiendo is actually progressive. You would follow this question with a summary of what you understood so the person can confirm or clarify the message. Número 3. ¿Puedes repetir lo que dijiste, por favor? Can you repeat what you said, please? This is asking for repetition of the same information using repetir. You could use something like aclarar or explicar for clarify or explain instead of repeat. And notice here, we're asking a question pretty nicely as opposed to using a command like repite, but obviously it's much shorter to just use a command. So if you're in a bind and that's all you know, try that instead. Número 4. ¿Me puedes aclarar lo de... ... Can you clarify for me the topic of ... In this question, we are asking for one thing about the conversation to be confirmed or clarified. So you aren't asking the person to repeat everything. This is great for when you got most of the meaning, except for one small piece, so they don't have to start over. Número 5. ¿Puedes decirlo más lento? Can you say it more slowly? This is asking for the same thing to be said, but slower. Often, this can be a way to better understand if there was background noise, someone is speaking through a mask, etc. Número 6. ¿Hay alguien aquí quien puede traducir? Is there someone here that can translate? This is for when you give up and really can't understand anything that is being said, so you need to see if someone can come explain. This would be good for a medical or legal conversation where precision is important. Most people can remember traducir better, but you can also say interpretar because that's asking for an interpreter who's actually translating the speech instead of translating text. So that's another option other than traducir is interpretar. Número 7. ¿Tienen un menú en inglés? Do you have an English menu? At a restaurant, you could see if there's an English menu to make ordering easier. Of course, we want to aim for reading off a Spanish menu, but one step at a time, right? Número 8. ¿Hablas inglés o hay alguien quien sí habla aquí? Do you speak English or is there someone that does here? Again, when there's little hope of good communication in Spanish, you can try this question instead of the previous one about translating and interpreting. Note that the alguien que sí habla aquí directly translates as someone that, yes, speaks here. But it's confirmation that they do indeed speak English or that that person does. It starts as a tú question and then broadens to really anyone using the LAO usted form. Okay, listo or lista? Are you ready? Here come those questions, random order, and make sure you pause during the silence of the break if you don't have enough time to reply. Now, this time is a little different because we're likely to be asking the questions as opposed to answering them. So if you'd rather, you could just try repeating the question and then waiting to hear my response, or you could try to put yourself in the shoes of the Spanish speaker and also include a response to each of these questions. Totally up to you. Estoy entendiendo bien lo que dijiste. Mi respuesta, or my answer is, no, es que solo aceptamos tarjeta de crédito o débito. No aceptamos efectivo. So here I'm clarifying payment methods for the person who didn't understand. ¿Hablas inglés o hay alguien que sí habla aquí? Mi respuesta es, no tenemos hablantes de inglés aquí los fines de semana, pero hay una línea telefónica con intérpretes que podemos utilizar. How could the interpreter be reached? ¿Me puedes explicar de otra manera? Mi respuesta es sí, por supuesto. La pizza va a estar tarde, unos 15 o 20 minutos más. Podemos cancelar si no quieres esperar más tiempo. Siento la tardanza. So what are we hearing about the pizza? ¿Tienen un menú en inglés? Mi respuesta es, no, lo siento, solo tenemos una versión en español, pero si usas el código QR en tu teléfono, puedes traducir las opciones en la carta, ¿entiendes? Código means code, and carta is another word for menu. ¿Puedes decirlo más lento? Mi respuesta es sí, no pasa nada. ¿Prefieren tortillas de harina o de maíz? Harina is flour. ¿Hay alguien aquí quien puede traducir? Mi respuesta es, mi hija habla un poco de inglés. Espera un minuto y le voy a marcar para ver si puede traducir para nosotros. Marcar is another way to say llamar, but it's like to dial. ¿Puedes repetir lo que dijiste, por favor? Mi respuesta es, tu puerta de embarque es el B23. Necesitas pasar por la seguridad y aduana allá a la izquierda. Where am I? ¿Me puedes aclarar lo del horario? Mi respuesta es sí. Los autobuses a Ciudad de México salen cada 30 minutos, lunes a viernes, y cada hora en los fines de semana. Necesitas abordar el autobús 5 minutos antes de la hora indicada. ¿Tienes alguna otra pregunta? Did you catch the bus schedule or horario? Alrighty, that's all for now. I hope this episode makes it easier to re-establish communication if things are falling apart, which, spoiler alert, they will. And it's okay. Remember to stay calm, repeat what you did understand, and ask for clarification about the rest. I would love to hear any ideas for future episodes or any takeaways or questions from the episode. Send me a note at gringaconsulting.com. Chao, nos vemos en el próximo episodio.